Right, so we'll start with a question that, well, actually, I don't want to be overly critical, but there isn't actually a question. I'm going to have to assume a question because they didn't actually write a question, but we will have a look at it, see what we can determine. There's fewer of us this evening because we've got a retreat on, so there are 6 or 7 people that would normally be here that aren't. Some of them are talkers. um, so there's an opportunity for people who don't normally speak up to speak up if you'd like to and get involved. This is the question. Like I say, there isn't actually a question in there, but nonetheless, uh, it's about facing the challenges and learning from them. I feel I am needing to learn many things at the moment. I'm up for all this, though there are moments of dire despair. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing this self and groaning at my lack. Then I remember the instruction, rest in the moment, content to note what's arising. The other day I heard my internal voice groan, I feel broken. Then another voice said, that could actually be a good thing. So the question is about doubt and how it speaks. Okay. Um, let me read it out again, just so that give you a time to think about it and consider. It's about facing the challenges and learning from them. I feel I am needing to learn many things at the moment. I'm up for all of this, though there are moments of dire despair. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing this self and groaning at my lack. Then I remember the instruction, rest in the moment, content to note what arises. The other day I heard my internal voice groan, I feel broken. Then another voice said, that could actually be a good thing. So the question is about doubt and how it speaks. But my initial response upon reading this is that all of that, like noting stuff, we're not noting stuff to get rid of difficult experiences. We're just noting stuff. That's what we do. Through the process of noting, it then becomes apparent that we do things in body, speech, of mind, which increase our unhappiness. And there are things we do in body, speech, and mind that increase our happiness as a natural result of mindful noting. So mindful noting is the basis, the foundation of the entire path. The Buddha said, mindfulness is the one way. So it's becoming aware of what is actually taking place in conscious experience, both externally and internally. And so we find ourselves here in this scheme of things, and we are all, without exception, presented with challenges. There's not one of us that does not experience it. If you're not experiencing challenges in the human realm, what on earth are you doing here? There's been some error. You're not supposed to be here. Everyone in the human realm comes here to have challenges and to learn through them, you know? So by practicing mindful noting, we are presented with these challenges, and the mindful noting is what is at the base, is what is now going to help us to navigate our way through these challenges. And so much of it is about understanding suffering, isn't it? So, like, I'm like, so the challenges aren't wrong. Like because our society is so incredibly confused, we misinterpret, as a culturally, we misinterpret things like, like the unwanted things that happen in life as, that they shouldn't be there. And so it creates this sense of opposition to reality. Reality keeps doing stuff to us that we don't like, including suffering, old age, decay, and death, illness, first noble truth. But we are in the business of exploring conscious experience. That's what we mean by Buddhist practice. At its heart, that's what it is. It's an exploration, and so it is learning to welcome these challenges as an opportunity to learn about how life works, to learn about our own responses in terms of our mental behavior, our speech, our bodily behavior, and what causes us to feel unhappy or unhappier, and what causes us to feel happier. And so, looking at this question, if we're groaning at our lack, is that objectively true? If we're telling ourselves that we feel broken, what comes first? The narrative and then the reality of being broken? So if we're practicing mindful noting, we're presented with life challenges, and because we're in training, sometimes our responses are extraordinarily skillful. Sometimes they're very unskillful. We say, it's skillful to say, life is presenting me with a challenge. I'm going to take this step by step. I'm going to let life present me with. I was talking to somebody on retreat today about this. It's like life will present you with the challenge, and in presenting you with the challenge, it will actually give you the necessary steps that you need to take. So, somebody sends you an email, well, I've got to respond to the email. It's like that. It's like the steps are naturally there, but what we tend to do unskillfully is say, I can't cope with this. I can't do this. But that isn't true. It just isn't true. Because if you break it down into step by step, you can. But it's the inertia, it is the reluctance, it is the resistance to the challenge. Understandable. And it's not a criticism, it's just an observation. Value-free observation. That's the tendency. Our tendency is to reject the challenge and the learning, which makes following the necessary steps in this dance more difficult. So, we have leaden feet. Our legs don't move properly. We're always behind the beat of the dance. So the way that we talk to ourselves, about ourselves, we're creating, we're establishing and reinforcing the myth about ourselves, the story we tell ourselves about who we are. And so we say, we groan at our lack. What lack? What lack? We say, I'm broken. I can't do this. No? You sure? It's just a story. You're perfectly at liberty to change the story. At least change it to, well, given that I'm a Buddhist practitioner and I'm exploring conscious experience, okay, let's give this a go. Let's break it down one step at a time. I'm glad for the opportunity. So yeah, doubt does speak, tells us lies. I can't do this. Mindfulness is hard. No, it's not. You've been listening to me recently, you know that I will not accept anyone, because I have a 100% record of actually going through it one-to-one with people, 100% success record. Even did it today with somebody on retreat. We do it together and they go, oh, yes, oh, yeah, okay. But we tell ourselves it's really hard. We tell ourselves stories. But are they true? Because here, like, there, in order to write this message to me, there had to be an awareness of all these things. So there was mindfulness. Because otherwise, if there was no mindfulness, you wouldn't be able to tell me that this is what took place. So there's plenty of mindfulness, because mindfulness is a naturally occurring mental phenomenon. We are all employing it at the moment. It is simply non-judgmental, value-free awareness of what is unfolding, and all the judgments are added on top. And all we're doing when we're practicing mindful noting is we're utilizing this natural, non-judgmental awareness, and we're just noting what's there. That's all it is. So this person is clearly aware that it's doubt, because they say, so the question is about doubt and how it speaks. Well, it speaks in lies. It perpetuates the myth about yourself that you cling to, you identify with, which you say, yes, that's me. And you are free, we are all free and at liberty to change that narrative whenever we like. And the only issue is when we take it seriously and we identify with it, and we then it becomes our reality. So if you tell yourself you're broken, then that becomes your reality. You are then broken. If you're if you are inspired to practice mindful noting and exploring your conscious experience, it will become so obvious and clear to you that you have that choice, whether you take that particular mental formation, that particular thought process, and the content of it seriously. So before mindful noting, yeah, of course, people believe the stories that the mind tells without batting an eyelid. But once you've established mindful noting and you see the pattern again and again and again, and you see how much distress it causes you, when you believe it, you will stop believing it. And you will start telling yourself a different story, a story that aligns you with unfolding reality, which says, yes, I'm grateful to have this challenge. This is what life does. It presents me with challenges. And each challenge that I enter into, I grow from, I learn about, and I come to a better understanding of my responses. Look at what this challenge, whatever it is that's challenging the questioner, whatever it is that's challenging, it's bringing up all this doubt and this story of the self as being, unable to deal with things and being broken and so forth. It's rich. It's so rich. It's giving you so much to work with. You don't have to get rid of the doubt. You just have to see it clearly. You don't have to get rid of the thought about feeling broken. You just have to see it really, really clearly. And the more clearly you see it, oh my goodness, there's some serious looking faces out there. But the more clearly you see this is why the Buddha talks about the importance of understanding suffering. You can only understand suffering if you're willing to look at it. And then you abandon the cause. And the cause is the resistance, the passionate desire for life to be different than it is, not the unfolding reality. The unfolding reality is suffering. There's nothing we can do about that. But we can do something about the subsequent rejection. And in a kind of way, I want to say that we've got this challenge, and then we make it all about me. We sort of say, I can't deal with this challenge, because suddenly it's like this is misdirection that goes on. It's suddenly now it's not about the other person or the situation. It's all about me and whether I can cope with it. It becomes self-involved. And it's learning to recognize that, to see that pattern clearly, and how that trips you up. Mandy, hello.
Hi, Paul. Quite interesting. I find my experience is that it's sometimes so hard to maybe accept the painful feelings or reject the reality because it's so painful to feel whatever is there, but also to recognize the reality sometimes because of our beliefs and our thinking and our thought processes or defense mechanisms. It's so sometimes doubt is also about, yeah, but what is true here? What is reality? To really, how can I say, to really feel and acknowledge probably the pain that is there and to distinguish that it isn't about you. I don't know if I have a question in that, but I noticed something that
If we take mindful noting off the table, what are we left with?
in the reality, is that what you mean?
No. Like, what are the alternatives if we're not going to look at this?
Not.
Big pharma medication?
Not mindful noting.
So if we take mindful noting off the table,
Yeah.
we're not going to do it.
No, I think that we're then going with the story.
Yeah. Well, what alternatives are there for? Well, what's going to happen if we take mindful noting off the table? We're going to say, no, it's too hard. Can't do it.
It's a story that we are creating.
Sorry? Say again?
Oh, sorry, I think we're going with the story that we're probably creating at that moment.
Okay, so what's going to happen?
We make maybe not the right choice to respond.
Okay, so what will happen? Will you become happier?
Sometimes I think I am, because then I'm trying to have control over the situation, and sometimes I think that works. I start to believe
Really?
that you have some control at least.
So if control works, why are you here?
Because it's not always working, and mostly it isn't. But
How often does it work?
sometimes it is.
How often does it work?
Well, sometimes it works, but it gives more painful feeling in the beginning, probably, or in the end, or
What do you mean, exactly do you mean by control?
well, for instance, I was thinking about a situation that I know where to push the red buttons of my partner. And sometimes it helps me to deal with my own pain, to push the red button of my partner that
You're
feels
causing
like
your
I'm having a
partner
bit of,
harm.
yes, but it does feel I have a bit of control, and maybe
No.
my
You're
pain
going the
goes
wrong
to,
way. You're going the wrong way.
I know that's the wrong way. I know it's the wrong way, but
You're
if it's
creating future resultants for yourself, which
exactly,
can be
I'm
harmful
misguiding.
and
Yeah, yeah,
harmful to your partner.
yeah, yeah. In the long term, you're right. It's causing more pain in the long term.
So give me an example where control brings harmony, peace, love, understanding.
Mm. Mm. Maybe this week I have an interview with you planned, so I'll come up with that. Going to think about that, Paul. No, I can't really.
No, I can't either. So if we take it, so we're saying that mindful noting as a practice is fundamentally simple, but what it reveals is the depth of human suffering, the attempts to manage and control that suffering, and the inability to succeed in that. And it shows us that there is another way, the one way to overcome suffering. So to undertake it is brave and courageous, but it's done from the premise, the wisdom that there is no other way. That's what the Buddha means by the one way. And so, yes, it is challenging. But to take a shortcut of just feeling better by essentially giving the pain to somebody else is short-sighted. It doesn't work. So mindful noting is the one way. And so, yes, we're saying it's challenging. It's hard. You have to accept your pain without trying to give it to somebody else. But it's not just, we just don't end it there. We recognize directly from our experience that the painful feelings are indeed transient and that we no longer have to offload our pain onto somebody else. We can take proper responsibility for the painful feelings and that strong tendency to reject and want to get rid of. And as a consequence, we see that the painful feelings are transient and they're not me, they're not mine, they're not self. The responses of hatred or irritation, however it manifests, are transient. They're not me, they're not mine, they're not self. And so through the willingness to practice mindful noting, to learn to include and embrace what we find, that is the path of wisdom. That's how we become wise. So yes, I'm not blimey, I've done this path. I know it's not easy, but fundamentally, mindful noting is. It's just the complication comes because we reject what we find. So thank you for your honesty, Mandy, and your bravery in speaking up. We've got a few more hands up, which is good. And yeah, we'll discuss it some more when we chat tomorrow. Yeah, good. Thumbs up. Good. Paul, I think you're up next.
Hi, Paul. Let me just first wish Mandy the best of luck in that interview with you.
I'm sure.
Trying to convince you about control.
I out-control.
Listening to the question at the beginning, and I'm grateful you said it. You went through it twice. Actually, it really allowed it to sort of sink in.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the individual, I think we could all say, is going through what must be a very difficult time. But the thing that really impressed me with it is, so for me, identifying and noting doubt is probably maybe it's even the hardest hindrance to note. It's definitely up there.
Without doubt.
Yeah. And I was just very impressed that, because if I talk from my own personal experience, if I was to go back 5-10 years or whatever, I would have sworn blind that I didn't have any doubt at all. I'd be like, no, I haven't got any of that. And that was at the best of times. And yet this individual is able to go through what is obviously a very difficult time and is still mindful enough and has clearly the wisdom to note doubt during such a terrible sort of experience. It actually made me, I was full of awe, I was actually really impressed. The fact that they were able to identify and be mindful of the fact that there was doubt running in their mind during such a time. So I just wanted to say that, because that was a really positive takeaway I took from that.
Good. Well, thank you for that positive takeaway. You're right. Doubt is the most, without any question. The other hindrances are like, you come to them later on. Doubt is the one which is the great destroyer of the people's spiritual aspirations. I have seen so many people unable to recognize doubt, who act out of it in regards to meditation and teaching and so forth. And, I'm sure that they will at some point circle back round to, authentic teachings and will engage with it once again. Like, Paul, the very fact that you're able to say that you weren't even aware that doubt was a thing, and now you see how difficult it is to actually note doubt, is a sign of how much you've progressed. Genuinely. It's like an iceberg. We're melting an iceberg here. It's going to take time. But the more willing you are, this is the key. It's like the more willing you are to embrace this and say, okay, you reflect on a period of meditation, say when doubt overtook the mind and it was too strong for your mindfulness and you didn't catch it, and it took you on a little bit of a journey in the meditation. And then subsequently you go, oh, it was doubt, wasn't it? And you write it in the journal, your journal entry, it was doubt. Oh, fantastic. Really, really good. Gradually, as your mindfulness strengthens, your capacity, the feeling free to experience doubt grows. That's the key. It's that you enter into the meditation more and more happy for anything to arise. And when doubt rings its bell and starts telling you its lies, you go, here it is. And you're noting it in real time. And you're not looking to get rid of it. You're not looking to get around it. One of the great hallmarks that you're not willing to look at something is the fact that you're trying to get around something. Like, the meditation isn't working. I've got to make the meditation work. That's clear evidence that there's something that you're ignoring. And more often than not, it is doubt. So again, I would repeat, your sentiment back to you, Paul. Great. Brilliant. Keep going.
Thank you, Paul.
Becoming ever more familiar with doubt. The more familiar you become with it, the less it will interfere, because there'll be just this burgeoning clear comprehension of it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Paul. Ellen.
Hi, Paul. Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me? Let me just dive into one little aspect of this based on a personal experience myself from yesterday, having reaction to receiving some difficult news. I want to bring in the notion of taking care, being kind to oneself. The questioner's original statement was, I can't do this. And then Mandy also used this statement like the wrong choice. What I found, I think I've gotten a lot better at giving myself a lot of rope, and just doing what I can. So yesterday, the difficult news stirred a reaction. It felt very painful. I first of all was noting how obviously this is all conditioned. If I hadn't gotten the information, then I wouldn't have had a reaction. And I'm doing reasonably well at like, okay, here it is. And was able to be in a more reflective space for a while. And at some point I went, nah, that's good for now. I'm now going to have a wallow. And I wallowed in the difficult feeling, and I really wasn't being noting or mindful anymore. And then a little while later, I realized the wallowing had gone. Anyhow, just the notion of, I think we only can each do what we can at the level of our skill, and we try, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think I need to qualify, what I said to Mandy. Like, there are no wrong choices.
Right. Yeah.
If you recognize that, you will learn from you will learn one way or the other, and as I said to, I think, everybody on retreat today, you have to let yourself off the hook in each and every instance. Like, we're learning, we're all learning, and we're going to make the choices we make. I've certainly had the case in meditation where I've had a hindrance running, and formerly, not so much latterly, and I've gone, all right, I'm just going to let it run, and it's just run itself out, because really what you're doing is non-interference.
Right. Think of it as non-interference and let it run.
Yeah. So your inclination, the pattern that arose, was to do what you call wallowing. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's just phenomena arising. Yeah. It's just the value between good and bad in terms of the Buddha's teaching is only between that which creates an increase in suffering and that which creates a decrease in suffering.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And if there is no resistance to the wallowing, or there is no, you're wallowing, but you're not really taking it absolutely seriously, you're just, letting off steam or whatever, then okay, it's no biggie. You just know wallowing.
Okay. Oh, that's good. No wallowing. Okay. And then it was so funny. It's like, oh, where'd the wallowing go?
Yeah, I mean, nothing can.
It was over.
Nothing can be perpetuated forever. Everything arises and passes away, and so really, there's a whole series of volitions that are going and saying, continue this, continue this, continue this, and we reinforce our self myth in that way by repeating these stories. But as we, like you say, I mean, you're no beginner at this, Alan. You've been doing this a long time, and you talked eloquently about about the reflections that you put in and observing the conditioned nature of what was arising and all this sort of stuff. So there's all that going on as well. So it of course. So then just sort of letting go a little bit and going, yeah, but this is how I really feel.
This is how I really feel. Yeah. Okay.
That moment, that's how you really felt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I wanted your commentary on that, so I appreciate it. Thank you. That's helpful.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there is a middle way with this. Like, we're not trying to be paragons of virtue. We are not trying to put ourselves in a little box called the ideal Buddhist. We're just exploring, and it's your path. And again, to qualify what I was saying to Mandy, it's like, your response is your response, and you learn from it. And gradually we learn, quite naturally and spontaneously, which are the patterns we want to keep because they're helpful, and which are the patterns that perhaps we can say we've grown beyond. Our insight and our wisdom is such now that we can't really take those patterns seriously anymore, which is what I think Ellen was up to. And gradually we become wiser through that process. So I hope that's clear to everyone. Right. Yeah. Mark, hello.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
How are you?
I think I'm extraordinarily good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just a point on mindful noting. It focuses our attention into the present moment, and with practice, we see that everything is so fleeting that it can be hardly said to exist at all. Thinking of the six sensory fields,
They do exist momentarily, yeah.
Well, yeah, but yeah. And that we're not in control of what arises and ceases in the moment, that there's nothing to control, essentially.
No need to.
That was just a passing remark. But my question is around Paticca Samuppada, and I've been thinking about grasping, and if you could say a little bit about that, please, and what that looks like, either in the practice and in day-to-day life, and how that leads to either aversion or craving. And I'm thinking about craving either for progress or perhaps aversion to physical pain in the meditation. And I don't know whether there's an opportunity to, in between those two, somehow to stop the wheel. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Grasping is, you've got it sort of factually incorrect,
Right.
the order of things. Grasping arises out of craving.
Right.
So grasping is the continuous craving, continuous identification with things, continuous rejection of things. It's I'm trying to find the right word for it, but it's craving multiplied. So essentially, within the moment that, so in Paticca Samuppada, condition dependent origination, you have sense contacts that condition feelings. Feelings condition the responses. So the response could be craving. Now, in order to act upon, so we'll say it's a memory. There's a memory of sort of some unpleasant event from the past. So it's a comic resultant arising now as a memory. That produces a painful feeling. And then that produces aversion. That conditions the arising of aversion. In order to, if that aversion hasn't been seen mindfully, it hasn't been comprehended, then we act out the aversion. We act out of it, right? In order to act out the aversion, you have to think of the memory again. The memory produces another painful feeling, which produces another rejection. And so you got a little loop within a loop, a circle within a circle. So you're trapped in this continual rejection of the experience. But in order to reject the experience, you have to think about the experience again. See what I mean? So do that multiple times. That's what grasping is. So even with aversion, it's still grasping, even if it's like trying to get rid of chewing gum off your fingers or something. It's like the more you try, the tighter you get. Or a Chinese finger puzzle, the more you try to get out, the deeper in the mess you are. You see? So that's what grasping is. It's the multiplicity of little aversions growing and growing and growing and becoming this established. And then what we do is, because there's so much judgmentalism that's contained within so there are reasons why you reject the experience. And so you rehearse those as well. So views become established and worked up. That's also grasping. This is why it shouldn't be like this. And in order to establish and reaffirm why it shouldn't be like this, you have to think about the thing again. So you're back in another circle. You're just growing bigger and bigger and bigger and tighter and tighter and tighter. And the grasping is grasping even more tightly. See what I mean?
So would grasping be, I guess, could you use clinging as a substitute for grasping? And would that also then be identification?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because the rejection of something is reaffirming me as an entity separate from the experience, isn't it? Yeah. That's why people love politics. That's why people really enjoy disagreeing with one another because it reaffirms their identity as a separate entity. It gives them the illusion of substance, of solidity, of certainty. That's all grasping. And then grasping becomes becoming, doesn't it? So having established why life should be different than it is, we then set about making it different. Yeah? All in the name of self.
I was going to say, isn't there a misperception there that we grasp at, say, pleasant or unpleasant feelings as self or identify with them as self? Yeah.
Indeed, that's
rather than, sorry.
That's the whole teaching.
Rather than as fleeting, momentary phenomena.
Yeah, what can I say? People are deluded. And out of their misinterpretation of reality and not understanding things as they really are, they resist, they reject, they crave for things to be different, they pursue pleasure in the belief that somehow it's going to give them some kind of lasting happiness, and they ignore all the evidence to the contrary. And it's a never-ending process until somebody, and you asked about, well, how do you stop the wheel? I mean, sorry to sound like a broken record. Well, I guess I am a broken record, aren't I? I guess that's the whole point. Mindful noting. It just is. It's literally just the willingness to keep on mindfully noting what is taking place in your experience. You'll come to see the true nature of feelings. You'll come to see that there is no self in feelings. There is no self in craving. There is no self in grasping. You'll come to see that it's actually impossible to grasp. It's impossible to cling because there's nothing of substance to cling to. And the more clearly you see it, the more, it's not even like you have to try to let go. It's just, it happens. And then life starts to flow beautifully. Because you're not trying to uphold anything. You're not trying to uphold an image. You're not trying to uphold a myth about yourself. You're not trying to uphold anything. You're just free. So what stops the wheel of suffering is insight into the true nature of reality. Does that help, Mark?
Yeah, it does, Paul. It's very comforting.
It's very what? Sorry.
Very comforting to hear your wise words.
Wow. It's like I'm only reporting what I've seen to be so through exploring it myself. And we all have the capacity. There isn't anyone who doesn't have the capacity. It's just the willingness. It's just that somebody has the desire to do that and to explore. And if somebody has, and they just practice mindful noting, I'm not saying today, I'm not saying tomorrow. Yes, there's an iceberg of confusion and misinterpretation and misperception and wrong views. But if somebody is willing to be open, to know that they don't know, to do some study, talk to a teacher, do some retreats, practice meditation every day, integrate mindful noting into whenever they can, whenever the possibility lends itself, and they're willing to reflect on their experience, keeping a meditation journal, thinking about all this stuff, then gradually, that iceberg is melted. Not today, necessarily not tomorrow, but eventually it's the whole iceberg starts, just crumbling, calving, they call it, don't they? Just starts to just melt away, the iceberg of delusion and confusion and misinterpretation. So it's just persistence. and enjoying the exploration. Anyone can do it. Now, it might very well be that there are some people who are able to communicate it, but it's not their wisdom. Wisdom doesn't belong to anyone. It's just literally just mirroring back what you've discovered and sharing it with others. And I think it is really, really important that people understand that it's your journey. It's your exploration. It's not about trying to conform to a teaching. The teaching is merely giving us the tools. We don't want to be obsessed with the tools. Like, you've got to build a house, you've got a saw, you've got a hammer, or whatever else. You don't want to be obsessed with the saw and the hammer endlessly. You want to build the house. And so once you've understood the simplicity of mindful noting, it's just the willingness, the desire to do it, and doing it whenever you remember. That's what it takes. Yeah, you're laughing, Mark. Is that right?
Yeah, no. I mean, even in amongst the suffering of it all, I don't know. There's a kind of lighter side to it, I guess. Sort of, I don't know, like cosmic humor. I don't know, something.
Well, I mean, Alan used that quote, angels can fly because they take themselves so lightly. And progressively, as we gain insight into things as they really are, you just can't take yourself terribly seriously, because it becomes transparently obvious that everything is unfolding according to causes and conditions, and there is no separate self who is doing it all. It just becomes just so obvious, like a gooseberry sitting in the palm of your hand. You just can't. You're just like, oh. And so it's like, if you find yourself taking life overly seriously, or taking yourself overly seriously, then it's changing the narrative. Perhaps, changing the focus away from oneself, moving it out into the world. I put a bird feeder in the garden in number 8. I find that tremendously useful, making sure that the birds have food. Just little things like that can change the mood. Even just taking a walk out, finding a park and walking in the park, and then just thinking about everything that you like about what's unfolding. Just changing the emphasis away from me and my problems and all this, and just turning outward. And, at the beginning of every meditation, perhaps dedicating the meditation to everyone else and wishing that everyone else fulfill their heart's desires, and preferring that over your own progress. A wonderful thing happens when you do that. It's like, everything just settles. So that it's turning the emphasis away from obsessing over ourselves and reinforcing the self myth again and again. Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Mark. Sarah, you've been very patient. You've gone. You disappeared. Where are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you just about. Yeah, you're quite quiet.
Hi,
There you go.
thank you for your response there. It's kind of what I was thinking, but something you said many times, and it just came to mind there, that was so helpful when you've got these kind of narratives that are coming up, and we're so conditioned to try and look for meaning in the words of the content. and something which you said many times, and it took me a long time, but it was so helpful to hear it again and again. The content of thinking is not real. Thinking as a process is real, and really to go into that in one's own practice is so helpful. And this person is talking about using the phrase "a narrative came up," so they're obviously starting on that journey, or going down that route, but perhaps still in this painful situation of believing the content.
Well, yeah. We can't judge where the person is at, but it's undoubtedly the case that the more you observe thought processes and the coming and going of thought processes, and the difference between what happens when you take the content of the thought process seriously and when you don't, like I say, it's a very natural, spontaneous sifting and sorting. You just become aware that there is this choice as to whether you believe the content of the thinking, and progressively you just choose more wisely. It's no more. The important thing is the mindful noting, the discovery. We try to help. I act as something of a surrogate here, just trying to help the process along. But ultimately, everyone finds out for themselves the true nature of the content of thinking. And that's what's liberating. And so in every case, it's like in my role, certainly, I leave everyone with their issues. I don't try to resolve their issues. Everyone, when I have an interview with somebody, if I have an interview with you, Sarah, you walk out with your issues. You do not leave them in the room with me. I do not accept them. They're yours. So it's for you to work with. But progressively, naturally, spontaneously, that's what happens. You recognize I don't have to take these I don't have to take these thoughts seriously. It is as if, sometimes it feels as though like you're meditating and the birds are singing. It's, for some meditators, it's like their self-concern is so great that they're wondering whether the birds are singing about them. And they're not. just in case anyone's confused about that. The birds are not singing about you. They're not concerned about you. They don't know you exist. Yeah. And so, with our in our own heads, we could, in our own heads in inverted commas, we could be, la 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 la, all this stuff coming up, but we don't have to take it seriously. Just because it's passing through the mind doesn't mean you have to take it seriously. Good. Well, we've got a lot from that. Anyone else like to have a chat? Okay. Just trying to think if there's anything else important we should mention about this. Narratives. Should also point out that you can become so skillful at the use of narratives. It can be so transformative, transforming your perception. So when we practice loving kindness, we are using narrative to create certain results. As a consequence of practicing loving kindness, your perception of the world changes. Now, ordinarily, people consider their perception of the world to be something separate from objective reality. That's how, yeah. But actually, perception is one of the building blocks of reality. So when you're changing the resultant perception, you are changing the reality. And people wonder why I say you're sitting on a gold mine. You're absolutely sitting on a gold mine. So choose your thoughts. Choose which thoughts you take seriously, carefully. Because what you think creates your reality. And the more you practice mindfulness, the more you know the difference. All right. Okay. If no one else has anything else they'd like to talk about, we'll wrap up there for this evening. I hope that was useful. I enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. Really appreciate that.
Always useful. Thank you, Paul.
Not at all.
Thank you,
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
I think the next Zoom meeting in 2 weeks will be the last for the season.
Okay.
So.
Paul, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot,
Natalie.
Paul. Thank you very much.